Hello, dear YouTube viewers. I hope you're doing well. Okay, so let's start our video. The morning light crept softly through the curtains, casting faint stripes across the floor. The house felt unusually still, as though it were holding its breath. He stirred from bed earlier than usual, restless and uneasy, the kind of unease that doesn't have a name but presses heavy against the chest. For reasons he couldn't fully explain, he didn't dress for work. Something inside urged him to linger, to watch, to wait. The clock in the hallway ticked louder than usual, each second stretching the silence. He brewed coffee, the rich scent filling the air, yet even that familiar comfort felt strange against the tension humming beneath his skin. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the patterns in the wood of the table, and his mind replayed the moments that had been gnawing at him for weeks. The hushed phone calls when she thought he was asleep, the quick way she turned her screen away when he walked by, the excuses about working late or visiting friends. She had grown distant, her laughter no longer reaching her eyes, her touch carrying a weight of absence rather than closeness. He had never asked outright, had never wanted to believe what his instincts screamed, but this morning he needed answers. Instead of leaving for the office, he chose to stay, silent as a shadow. He positioned himself in the living room close to the kitchen, where the light would catch her face if she entered. He placed his keys deliberately on the counter, as though he had gone a small deception of his own. His heart thudded heavily as the minutes dragged. The sound of the door opening broke the stillness. She stepped inside lightly, as though she had been careful, cautious. Her voice floated in before she did, soft, playful, carrying warmth he had not heard directed at him in months. The words were muffled, spoken into her phone, but the tone was unmistakable, a melody reserved for someone else. She walked into the kitchen with a half-smile still on her lips, her phone pressed to her ear. Then she stopped dead, her body stiffening as her eyes locked on him. The phone slipped from her hand onto the counter with a dull thud. Her breath caught, her face drained of color. The question burst from her lips before she could contain it, trembling between shock and guilt. "You're still here?" The room seemed to shrink around them, the silence heavier than before, filled now with the weight of truth about to break loose. He didn't raise his voice. That, more than anything, unsettled her. His eyes were steady, too steady, and when he finally spoke, the calmness of his words carried a weight sharper than anger. "Who were you talking to?" he asked, his tone measured, almost detached. Her lips parted and then closed again. She glanced at the phone on the counter, then back at him. "No one. Just a friend," she muttered too quickly. "A friend," he repeated, leaning forward slightly. His calm was deliberate, the kind that left no room to hide. "Yes," she snapped, her voice hardening, defensive. "Do I need your permission to talk to people now? Are you going to start policing every word I say?" The shift to anger was sudden, almost rehearsed, as though she had been ready for this confrontation, but had never expected it to come in this moment, in this way. He stayed silent, watching her squirm. The silence pressed against her until she filled it with broken sentences and half-truths. "You're imagining things. You've been paranoid lately. Just because I don't talk to you the way I used to doesn't mean anything." His eyes didn't move from her face. "I've been paranoid," he said slowly, "because you've given me every reason to be." The words hung between them. She shifted her weight, her fingers fidgeting against the counter. The mask of denial began to slip when he reached into the drawer of the side table and pulled out a small envelope. He placed it on the counter, sliding it toward her. Inside were printed phone records, receipts, screenshots. He had been watching, not accusing blindly, but waiting, collecting the fragments of truth she thought she had hidden. "I didn't want to believe it," he said, his voice trembling now, no longer calm, but frayed. "But here it is. late-night calls that last hours, hotel bills you couldn't explain, messages you forgot to delete. Her face drained of color as she flipped through the papers. Her lips trembled, but she clamped them shut. "So," he asked, his voice raw, "are you still going to tell me I'm imagining things?" Her shoulders slumped. The fight drained out of her, leaving behind only the weight of guilt. I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered, her voice breaking. "How long?" he demanded. She hesitated. "A few months." He slammed his hand against the table, startling her. "Don't lie to me now." "How long?" Her eyes brimmed with tears. "Almost a year." The words struck him like a blow. He staggered back, his chest heaving. For a moment, he couldn't speak. She reached for him, but he stepped away. "I was lonely," she blurted out, desperation spilling over. "You were always working, always tired. You'd come home, eat, and fall asleep. I felt invisible. He listened to me. He made me feel alive again." His eyes burned with disbelief. "So you betray me because I was trying to provide for us, because I worked myself to the bone, so you could have everything? That's your excuse?" Tears streamed down her face. "It wasn't just about money. It was about us. You stopped seeing me. I needed more." He laughed bitterly, a sound without humor. "I gave you everything. My time, my trust, my loyalty. And you threw it away for cheap attention from someone else." Her sobs filled the kitchen. She tried to speak, but every word sounded hollow against the ache in his chest. The back and forth spiraled, a clash of wounds, her loneliness against his devotion, her justifications against his heartbreak. Finally, his voice dropped low, trembling. "Who is he?" She froze. Her lips pressed together, refusing. "Who is he?" he repeated louder now. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." His eyes bored into hers. "Do you love him?" Her silence answered for her. She looked away, unable to meet his gaze. That single pause cut deeper than any word could. His heart clenched, the floor seemed to tilt beneath him, and the air grew thick. "I see," he said, stepping back, his shoulders sinking. The world he had built, the home, the trust, the life, collapsed in that moment. It wasn't just the betrayal of her body. It was the betrayal of her honesty, her respect, her love. He looked at her, broken yet strangely calm now. "This marriage isn't just about your affair," he said softly. "It's about the lies, the disrespect, the way you made me feel like a fool in my own home." Her sobs grew louder, but he no longer moved toward her. The decision loomed before him like a doorway. One path leading to forgiveness, the other to freedom. His heart ached with the weight of it, but deep inside, he knew that whatever choice he made would mark the rest of his life. The silence stretched again, thick and unbearable, as he stood at the edge of that decision, to try and mend what was shattered or to walk away forever. He sank into the chair at the kitchen table, his hands trembling against the wood. For a long moment, he couldn't look at her. The sound of her sobs filled the air, but his mind drifted somewhere else entirely, back to a time when things were different. He saw her laughing on their first date, the way she nervously tucked her hair behind her ear. He remembered the day he proposed, how her eyes shone with certainty, the wedding, the vows, the way they had once held each other as though nothing in the world could tear them apart. But those memories twisted now, colliding with the image of her standing in the kitchen, phone still buzzing faintly on the counter, guilt etched into her face. The contrast was unbearable. He pressed his palms against his eyes, fighting back the sting of tears. Is this worth saving? The question echoed inside him, heavy and relentless. Could love survive such a fracture? Or was he clinging to something already dead? She stepped closer, her voice raw, almost broken. Please, please don't give up on us. Her knees buckled, and she sank to the floor in front of him, clutching at his hands. It was a mistake, the worst mistake of my life. I wasn't thinking. I let my loneliness control me, but I never stopped loving you. He looked at her, torn between the woman he once knew and the stranger before him. Her tears were real, her desperation genuine, but sincerity couldn't erase the image of her with someone else. His heart felt like a battlefield, hope and hurt colliding, neither winning. You still love me? He whispered, his voice hollow. Yes, she said quickly, almost desperately. With everything I am. I'll do anything to fix this. Counseling, honesty, whatever it takes. Just don't leave me. Don't throw away everything we've built. He studied her face, searching for the truth in her words. He wanted to believe her, wanted to find a way back to what they once had. But doubt lingered like a shadow, whispering that trust, once shattered, could never be pieced together the same. Two futures stretched before him, both painfully clear. Underscore, 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 underscore. Option A, reconciliation path. He drew a long, shaky breath. If there's even a chance we can salvage this, it won't be easy. It won't be quick. And I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. Her grip tightened on his hands. I'll wait. I'll fight for us. Just give me the chance. His chest rose and fell, each breath heavy. Slowly, he nodded. Then we'll start with counseling. We'll lay everything on the table. Every truth, every wound. But know this. If you cross me again, if you ever betray me again, it's over. I won't survive it twice. She nodded rapidly, tears streaming. I understand. I'll prove to you that I'm still yours. The silence that followed was fragile, uncertain. He didn't pull her into his arms, didn't kiss her forehead like he once would have. Instead, they sat together at the table, side by side yet miles apart, with the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild. The coffee on the counter had gone cold, but he poured 2 cups anyway, placing one in front of her. A small gesture, a fragile symbol. The future was uncertain, but for now, he hadn't walked away. Underscore, 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 underscore. Option B, separation path. He closed his eyes and let the memories wash over him one last time. When he opened them again, they were sharper, colder. He pulled his hands free from hers and stood, his shadow stretching long across the kitchen floor. I can't, he said quietly, almost gently. I can't live wondering if I'll ever be enough for you. I can't rebuild trust that you've already burned to ash. I won't be your second choice. Her face crumpled. No, please don't say that. We can fix this. I'll change. He shook his head, his voice steady now. It's too late. He moved through the kitchen, each step deliberate. He picked up his keys from the counter, the same ones he had left there earlier to trick her. Now, they were not part of a deception, but a decision. She reached for him, clutching at his sleeve, but he gently pulled free. You made your choice when you let someone else into our marriage, he said, his voice trembling with controlled pain. Now I'm making mine. The door opened, and the cool morning air rushed in. He stood there for a moment, his back to her, then spoke the words that sealed their fate. Goodbye. The door closed behind him, and with it, the weight of years of promises, of dreams they had once built together. She collapsed to the floor, sobs echoing through the empty kitchen, realizing too late that her betrayal had cost her everything. He walked away with dignity, broken but unbent, carrying with him the painful freedom of a man who chose self-respect over shattered love. The kitchen had gone quiet again, the storm of shouting and tears leaving behind only the sound of two people breathing in the same space, yet feeling worlds apart. He sat at the table, his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long since gone cold. She sat across from him, her eyes swollen, her body trembling, but still there, still facing him, still trying to hold on to what little remained. Neither spoke for a long time. The silence was heavy, but not hostile anymore. It was the kind of silence that comes after everything has been said, after wounds have been torn open and left raw. Between them sat 2 cups of coffee, both untouched, the steam long gone. He stared at them and thought how fitting it was. Their love had gone cold, too. But coffee, like love, could be warmed again if someone cared enough to try. He didn't take her hand, didn't offer forgiveness, but he didn't stand to leave either. They sat side by side in that fragile, uncertain space, both knowing the road ahead would be harder than anything behind them. Hope, however faint, still flickered. The marriage wasn't healed, but it wasn't dead either. It was something in between, like cold coffee waiting for heat. Underscore, 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 underscore. Or, in another version of that same morning, he didn't sit down at all. Instead, he moved quietly through the bedroom, pulling a bag from the closet. Each folded shirt, each pair of jeans, felt like a piece of his past being packed away. She followed him, begging, pleading, her voice shaking as she tried to hold him back with words. But his silence was stronger than her cries. He zipped the bag, slung it over his shoulder, and walked back into the kitchen. For a moment, he paused, his eyes sweeping across the table, the cold coffee, the woman who had once been his world. He didn't curse her, didn't lash out, didn't make her smaller than she already felt. Instead, he spoke with quiet dignity. Sometimes leaving is the only way to save yourself. And with that, he walked out, the door closing softly behind him. The weight of the house seemed to collapse around her, leaving her alone with the ruins of what she had broken. His steps down the driveway were steady, each one carrying him closer to freedom, not from her alone, but from the betrayal, the doubt, the prison of wondering if he'd ever be enough. Whether he stayed or left, the ending carried its own truth. If he remained, it was with the fragile hope that something broken might still be rebuilt. If he walked away, it was with the strength of a man who chose dignity over despair. Either way, his life would never be the same, but it would be his choice, and his choice alone. Thanks for watching. For more videos, please subscribe. Our channel, Awesome Visual Story.